The film begins in Italy, where the American Dalton family, Ben, Louise, and their 11-year-old daughter Agnes, is on vacation at a resort. Despite being on holiday, Ben and Louise struggle to enjoy themselves, finding the only other guest they talk to, a Danish couple, quite dull. Agnes, who still depends on a stuffed rabbit named Poppy for comfort, becomes distressed when she loses it. Luckily, a British family, the Felts, Patty, Sierra, and their mute son Ant, find the toy and return it, charming the Daltons and joining them for lunch. During the meal, Ben shares with Patty that his family recently moved to London for his job, with Louise sacrificing her own work to make the move possible. Patty then invites the Daltons to visit his and Sierra's country estate. After returning to London, Ben expresses disappointment to Louise about missing a deal he had hoped to secure at work. He also worries about Agnes's development, feeling she should start moving on from her dependency on her stuffed toy. When they receive a postcard from Patty and Sierra with a second invitation to the estate, Ben and Louise discuss it. Although Louise initially hesitates about socializing with near strangers, they eventually decide to accept. The Daltons arrive at the Felts estate just in time for dinner. Patty proudly presents a roast goose and offers it to Louise, despite her previously mentioning she's vegetarian. Louise takes a small taste out of politeness, but discreetly spits it out. Later, when Ben goes to take out the trash, Ant silently follows him and attempts to show that his tongue has been cut. The adults continue socializing while Ant and Agnes share a room. During the night, Louise hears Ant crying out in his sleep, but Patty and Sierra assure her he'll settle down, which he eventually does. The following day, both families go hiking in the woods. Agnes attempts to use a swing set, and Patty roughly moves Ant aside to make space for her. They all head to a nearby lake, as suggested by Patty, after Louise complains of neck pain. Louise expresses her discomfort to Ben, but Sierra invites them to join her and Patty for dinner at a nearby restaurant, leaving Ant and Agnes with their babysitter, Mujid, Motaz Mulhis. At dinner, Patty and Sierra openly discuss their active sex life, while Louise casually mentions that she and Ben have been less intimate lately, which visibly unsettles Ben. Patty and Sierra tease them, pretending to engage in sex under the table. Meanwhile, Ant leads Agnes to a bedroom and shows her a collection of watches, one of which has a Danish inscription and another man's name. Ant tries to keep Agnes quiet so that Mujid won't find them, having tricked him into playing hide and seek. He also reveals his torso, covered in bruises and scars. Before going to bed, Ben confronts Louise about her comments to Patty and Sierra, also mentioning his lingering discomfort over seeing another man's penis on her phone. They resolve the issue with a hug, unaware that Patty is secretly watching them. Later that night, Louise wakes up and goes to check on Agnes, only to find both her and Ant missing. She searches the house until she finds Agnes asleep in bed next to Sierra. Louise grabs her daughter and takes her back to their room. The next morning, Louise tells Ben that Agnes sleeping in Patty and Sierra's room is the last straw, and they need to leave immediately. The Daltons attempt to sneak out quietly before Patty and Sierra wake up, but on the road, Agnes panics when she realizes she left Hoppy behind. Ben tries to calm her down, but her tantrum causes him to nearly drive into a truck. Reluctantly, Ben turns the car around and goes back to the house, only to find that Patty and Sierra are already awake and seem offended by their hasty departure without saying goodbye. When Louise admits she wasn't comfortable with what happened the previous night, Sierra apologizes, explaining that she has a motherly instinct because they lost their daughter, Mary. The Daltons soften and apologize for trying to leave without proper goodbyes. Patty takes Ben fox hunting while Louise and Sierra stay behind with the children. Ant tries to write a message to Agnes, but it's in Danish, and she cannot understand it. He eats it before Sierra notices. After Ben misses a fox, Patty takes him to a quiet spot to release their frustrations with primal screams. The families gather for lunch, and Louise becomes upset when Sierra comments on Agnes's eating habits. Sierra apologizes, but Patty suggests Louise should also apologize. Meanwhile, Agnes and Ant perform a dance they've been practicing to Cotton Eye Joe, but Patty criticizes Ant's dancing so harshly that it frightens Agnes. Patty takes a nap, and while he's asleep, Ant steals his keys and leads Agnes to a hidden basement in the barn. There, Ant shows Agnes a book filled with pictures of other families that Patty and Sierra have encountered, each featuring an unhappy child beside another couple with their own child. Each new child is the one from the previous family. Aunt silently reveals that Patty and Sierra cut out his tongue and plan to make Agnes their next child, just as they did with his parents. Agnes takes pictures on her phone to show Louise, but when Patty wakes up, Aunt quickly tries to return the keys to him, though Patty notices the basement latch exposed. Once Ben and Louise learn the horrifying truth, they try to find a way to leave without alerting Patty and Sierra. They tell the couple that Agnes has started her period as an excuse to leave, but when they try to drive away, they discover they have a flat tire. Patty changes it, but Agnes realizes Hoppy is missing again. After finding the doll shredded in the gutter, they attempt to leave, but they need Aunt to open the gate. However, Patty opens it with his own keys. As they start driving away, Agnes sees Patty throwing Aunt into the lake. Ben runs to save him, while Louise tries to drive off with Agnes, but Patty shuts the gate. Ben rescues Aunt, but now Patty and Sierra have Louise and Agnes hostage at gunpoint. Patty and Sierra force the Daltons to hand over their money, and Patty tries to sedate Agnes with... Louise manages to slash Patty's face with a hidden box cutter and fights Sierra for the rifle. Ben frees himself, Agnes, and Aunt before they make a break for it. However, their escape is cut short when Mike, an accomplice of Patty and Sierra, arrives and opens fire on the family, forcing them to flee back to the house and hide. The villains begin hunting the family, and Ben and Louise try to keep the children hidden, barricading themselves in a bedroom. Ben attempts to start a fire in the barn using one of Patty's liquor bottles, hoping someone will notice, but he misses and accidentally drops the bottle onto Patty's car. Mike opens fire and tries to break into the house. Ben attempts to defend himself with a hammer, but Mike nearly overpowers him, impaling his head on broken glass. In a desperate move, Louise grabs the hammer and kills Mike by jamming it into his head. When Patty charges at them, Louise sprays drain cleaner into his face, severely burning him, and Sierra rushes to help him. The family tries to escape via the roof using a ladder, but Sierra catches up. Louise strikes her in the head, sending her falling off the roof to her death and knocking down the ladder in the process. Ben climbs down but injures his leg. He manages to get the ladder back up so Louise, Agnes, and Aunt can climb down safely. However, Patty finds them, holding Agnes at gunpoint and claiming he will take her now that Sierra is dead. He attempts to kill her parents, but Agnes uses a mean needle on Patty, incapacitating him. As they prepare to leave, Aunt grabs a brick, and despite Patty's attempt to show pride in him, Aunt smashes his skull in a fit of rage. Ben and Louise gather the children into Mike's car and drive away from the estate. Agnes hands Hoppy to Aunt to comfort him, signaling that they are finally leaving the horrors behind. Okay, this was the movie recap of Speak No Evil 2024. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your comment below the video. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next videos.